World News program coming to you live from Algiers with me, Madam Zian, to the headlines. The humanitarian crisis worsens in Gaza. 6 infants die from extreme cold. Hamas blames Israel for blocking aid as the death toll reaches 48,348. Coming up, Syrian transitional president Ahmed al-Shara rejects division of Syria, insists state must control arms, and warns of internal and external threats. Ex-Algerian President Tebboune meets Niger's foreign minister to strengthen political and economic ties, highlighting energy sector collaboration. And the Kremlin stated that Washington is showing a balanced stance on the war, while the British Foreign Secretary argued that it's time to confiscate Russian assets rather than just freeze them. Hello and welcome back to the details of our program. First, in our news file, at least 6 Palestinian infants have died from hypothermia during a severe cold spell in the Gaza Strip. Dr. Saeed Salah, medical director of the Friends of the Patient Charitable Hospital in Gaza City, said on Tuesday that 3 newborns aged 1 to 2 days died shortly after being admitted to the intensive care. 2 more children died on Tuesday morning, and a 6th death was reported in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza.
8 cases of severe cold, also known as cold injuries, arrived at the hospital. These cases were admitted to intensive care, and 3 cases died within hours of admission. They were young, either weighing 1.7 kilograms or 2 kilograms, or were 2 days old. There are also 3 cases in critical condition, and they would reach their end, God forbid. Thus, we appeal to all relevant authorities to support our people in these severe circumstances, to bring the caravans, tents and fuel.
Hamas announced on Tuesday that the death toll of 6 newborn babies in the Gaza Strip due to the severe cold and lack of heating, noting that there are a number of other children in hospitals in critical condition. In a press statement, the movement Hamas held the Zionist government fully responsible for this humanitarian disaster, accusing it of practicing criminal policies by preventing the entry of humanitarian aid and shelter materials to more than 2 million citizens in the besieged Strip.
The death of 6 newborn babies in the Gaza Strip due to severe cold and the lack of heating resources, and the presence of several children in hospitals in critical condition, is a result of the criminal policies of the fascist occupying government, which has prevented the entry of humanitarian aid and shelter materials to cover 2 million citizens. We urge mediators to take immediate action to stop the occupation's violation of the ceasefire agreement, compel it to implement the associated humanitarian protocol, and ensure the delivery of shelter, heating supplies, and urgent medical aid to the people of the Gaza Strip.
The Gaza Health Ministry reported the arrival of 2 martyrs at hospitals in the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours, along with 2 new injuries. The ministry stated in a press release that the death toll from the Israeli aggression has risen to 48,348 martyrs, in addition to 111,761 injured since October 7, 2023. And amid the rubble in Gaza, the Tamboura family has returned to live in the only remaining room of their destroyed home in Beit Lahia, despite its crumbling walls and collapsed ceiling. With no other option, Rawiya and her family face constant danger from the room's unstable structure. Usama Ayadi has the story.
Amid the rubble of Gaza, where destruction stretches as far as the eye can see, the Tamboura family clings to what little remains of their shattered home in Beit Lahia. With nowhere else to go, Rawiya and her loved ones have returned to live among the ruins, where every crack in the walls and every fissure in the ceiling is a silent harbinger of looming death.
When our home was attacked, it felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath us. Because our house was all we had, now even a flimsy tent feels safer than the fractured walls that surround us. I sleep in a room that has already been hit, knowing that if the war resumes, it will collapse on top of us. There's nothing left to bring us comfort. No home, no electricity, no water, no food. We've been stripped of everything.
ولا كهرباء ولا مية ولا أكل ولا حاجة ولا حاجة ولا حاجة.
Without water, without electricity, and without the comfort of a safe roof over their heads, the Tambura family, like thousands of others who have braved the return to northern Gaza, faces insurmountable hardships. Those who survived the relentless bombardment now find themselves trapped beneath the weight of collapsed columns and crumbling rooftops, where danger lurks at every turn.
في كل العالم كل بيت متوفر فيه كهرباء ومية وغاز.
Every home in the world has electricity, water and gas, basic things people take for granted. But for us, every day is a battle just to find them. We wake up searching for water, a place to charge our phones, a way to cook our food. Survival has become a relentless pursuit of life's most fundamental needs.
الأشياء الأساسية البحث عن متطلبات الحياة الأساسية.
Here in Gaza, death is an uninvited guest, haunting every alley, every shattered storefront, every makeshift shelter. The siege is not just one of bombs and bullets. It is a slow, suffocating stranglehold that denies over 2 million people access to the bare necessities of life. As the Zionist occupation tightens its grip, blocking vital humanitarian aid, Gaza plunges deeper into an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe, one that'll be etched in history as a stain on humanity's conscience.
In Gaza, returning to school is an act of defiance despite widespread destruction, shortages, and the loss of thousands of students and teachers. The Palestinian Ministry of Education has resumed the school year. Students are returning to rebuild their shattered future. Marwa Belawar tells you more.
The Palestinian Ministry of Education has announced the resumption of the school year in Gaza, a school year without tens of thousands of students killed during 16 months of genocide. Many survivors face unimaginable obstacles, including amputations from Zionist bombings. Schools, too, are in ruins. 85% of them have been rendered inoperable, and thousands of teachers and students have been killed.
The situation is very difficult. Despite everything, we were able to start the new school year. However, classrooms are limited due to the high number of returning families. We simply can't accommodate everyone.
Psychological support is a given for students in other countries. In Gaza, survival itself is a daily struggle.
Many students lost family members. Some couldn't even hold a pen. But through perseverance, we helped them progress.
The destruction is staggering, $2 billion in damages to the education sector. But the greatest loss, the thousands of young lives that will never return to the classroom.
At dawn on Tuesday, Israeli occupation forces launched a series of raids in several areas of the occupied West Bank. According to Palestinian sources, the occupation forces stormed the town of Beit Omar, north of Al Khalil, searching several homes. They also raided Al Fawar refugee camp, south of Al Khalil, arresting several Palestinians. Israeli military vehicles also advanced into the city of Zata, south of Al Khalil, as well as the town of Habla, south of Qalqilia, and a village of Marka, south of Jenin, in the occupied West Bank. The World Health Organization's representative in the occupied Palestinian territories, Rick Peppercorn, expressed deep concern on Tuesday over the attacks on the healthcare sector in the West Bank. Peppercorn stressed during a press conference that there is a stark escalation of violence and attacks currently targeting the healthcare sector in the West Bank. Syrian Transitional President Ahmed al-Shara affirmed on Tuesday that Syria will not accept division. Speaking at the National Dialogue Conference in Damascus, al-Shara emphasized the need to rebuild Syria on the rule of law and civil peace. He called for unity among Syrians, warning of internal and external threats aimed at undermining the country's achievements.
Just as Syria has liberated itself by itself, it is appropriate for it to build itself by itself. We are a noble people who do not know the meaning of begging, humiliation and disgrace. The peoples who are full of life are the ones who carry an abundant balance of moral values. As soon as they adhere to them, they are saved, and as soon as they abandon them, they fail. The victory that was accomplished and the happiness of the Syrian people might upset people here and there, and they want to undermine the accomplishments of the people. We have to be careful and confront with firmness, strength, and resolve anyone who wants to tamper with our security and unity.
Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf al-Salam has pledged to take necessary measures to end Israeli occupation of Lebanese territory and deploy the army along internationally recognized borders. Addressing Parliament, Salam affirmed the government's commitment to implementing President Joseph Aoun's vision of state monopoly over weapons, stressing the need for a national security strategy to defend Lebanon.
We reaffirm the integrity of Lebanon's territory, its sovereignty, and its political independence within its internationally recognized borders. As stated in the Armistice Agreement between Israel and Lebanon, the government, in accordance with the National Accord document, Taif Agreement, is committed to taking all necessary measures to liberate all Lebanese territories from Israeli occupation and to extend the state's sovereignty over all its land exclusively through its own national capabilities. It also commits to deploying the army in Lebanon's internationally recognized border areas and affirms Lebanon's right to self-defense in the event of any aggression in accordance with the United Nations Charter.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated in a meeting with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov that Iran will not surrender to the sanctions imposed by the US. In a joint press conference with Lavrov in Tehran, Araghchi emphasized that there is no possibility of negotiations between Iran and the US regarding the nuclear file, as long as the US continues its policy of pressure, as he put it.
Iran's position on nuclear negotiations is clear. Negotiations under pressure and sanctions are unacceptable. There will be no possibility of direct talks between Iran and the United States on the nuclear file as long as the maximum pressure policy continues in this manner.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov affirmed during a visit to Iran on Tuesday that Moscow was sure that diplomatic measures were still on the table when it came to resolving issues around Iran's nuclear program. Lavrov also emphasized that diplomacy should not be neglected and should be exploited to the maximal efficiency.
We spoke extensively about the situation around Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Iranian nuclear deal. We are sure that the resource of diplomacy is still on the table. It should not be neglected. It should be exploited to the maximal efficiency without any threats and certain implications regarding use of force.
The Moroccan Front for Supporting Palestine and Resistant Normalization expressed its condemnation of the kingdom's continued normalization with the Zionist entity. In a statement issued by its National Council on Tuesday, the front asserted that the Moroccan government represses activists and human rights defenders, calling for the abolition and criminalization of normalization.
Not only have the authorities failed to put an end to normalization, but they have also intensified the repression, arresting and persecuting activists opposing it and those standing in solidarity with the state of Palestine. One of the most alarming aspects of Morocco's normalization is the docking of ships bound for the Zionist entity at the port of Tangier, ships that neighboring countries have rejected for violating international law and aiding in the crime of genocide.
Opponents of normalization in Morocco have renewed their call for the cancellation of all agreements with the Zionist entity, stressing that signing military deals with the occupation comprises the sovereignty of the country, according to their statement. The organization Moroccans Against Normalization, which was founded by the Moroccan Front for Supporting Palestine Against Normalization to combat the Zionist infiltration into the country, called for the cancellation of all agreements signed with the Zionist entity. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Niger, Bakary Sangaré, according to a statement from the Algerian presidency. The same source added that the meeting was attended by the Director of the Presidential Office, Boualem and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf. Following his meeting with President Tebboune, Niger's Foreign Minister Bakary Sangaré emphasized that Niger and Algeria share long-standing and strong relations across various political and economic fields.
I have just concluded a meeting with the President, which focused on 4 key points. I conveyed to President Abdelmajid Tebboune the greetings of his brother, General Abdurrahman Tiani, and extended the congratulations of the Nigerian people and government to the Algerian people and government on Algeria's election to the United Nations Security Council and the African Union. The discussions primarily revolved around bilateral cooperation between our 2 countries. Algeria and Niger share deep-rooted and long-standing relations dating back to 1964. The Joint Committee first convened in 1971, and the latter evolved into the High Joint Committee in 2011. Currently, our cooperation spans all political and economic sectors, essential to both nations.
Niger's foreign minister highlighted the significant development in Algerian-Nigerian relations, particularly in the energy sector. He praised Algerian investments that both countries are working to implement in Niger, including projects in electricity generation.
We have witnessed remarkable progress in our cooperation in the petroleum sector. The Algerian Minister of Energy visited Niger, and Algerian companies are currently engaged in exploration and drilling operations in several oil fields. We aim to expand our investment cooperation with Algeria to develop our economy, particularly in establishing an oil refinery in Niger. In the electricity sector, Algeria has decided to support Niger in developing power production by installing 2 turbines, each with a capacity of 25 megawatts. An Algerian team is currently in Niger conducting technical studies to implement these turbines.
Algerian Interior Minister Ibrahim Merad discussed local governance and legal systems with Spain's Secretary of State of Regional Policy, Arcadi Garcia. On the second day of his visit to Spain, Minister Merad highlighted Algeria's efforts to revise municipal and provincial laws and promote balanced developments. The talks also explored successful local economic models in Spain, including agriculture industry and tourism, and ways to integrate small and medium-sized enterprises into the local economy. The Sudanese army announced its control over the Soba East Bridge and the Al-Hurriya Bridge, which connects central Khartoum with its southern part, after bloody clashes with the rapid support forces that lasted for consecutive days. Local sources reported that in recent weeks, the Sudanese army has regained large areas of Khartoum Bahri, parts of East Nile, and made progress in new locations south of Durman, while continuing its efforts to regain control of central Khartoum, which includes the presidential palace and state institutions. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres stressed the importance of preserving Sudan's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity for a sustainable resolution to the conflict between the army and the rapid support forces. Guterres voiced concern over the rapid support forces and its allies signing a political charter to establish a parallel ruling authority, calling the move an escalation that risks further fracturing the country and deepening the crisis.
The Secretary-General is deeply concerned at the announcement by the rapid support forces and affiliate and the wider region. The Secretary-General also condemns the persistent violence perpetrated against civilians across the Sudan by both parties to the conflict, including ethnically motivated attacks. Sudanese women, Sudanese children and men are paying the heaviest price for the continued military offensives by the belligerents in this conflict.
Algeria has urged all parties in the Ukraine conflict to engage in serious negotiations for a peaceful resolution. Speaking at a UN Security Council session on a U.S. drafted resolution, Toufiq El-Eid Qudri of Algeria's UN mission reaffirmed Algeria's support for diplomacy over confrontation, escalation, or polarization. And as the war in Ukraine continues, the UN Security Council backs a US drafted resolution with a neutral stance. Moscow welcomes the shift, while the UK pushes for tougher action against Russia. Hossam Berkan has more.
The war in Ukraine continues, with drone warfare dominating the battlefield. Meanwhile, diplomatic shifts are emerging as the UN Security Council adopts a US-drafted resolution marking the war's third anniversary. The resolution, which avoids direct condemnation of Russia, received backing from the UN Security Council members, while France, the UK, Denmark, Greece and Slovenia abstained. It calls for an end to hostilities and lasting peace, reinforcing the UN's role in conflict resolution.
We see that the United States is taking a more balanced stance, which truly helps efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. We certainly welcome this and believe that such a balanced position reflects a genuine desire to contribute to a settlement.
Moscow welcomed what it called Washington's balanced stance, following the U.S. rejection of a Ukraine-backed resolution that explicitly condemned Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov argued that the decision reflects a deeper understanding of the war's root causes.
I have informed my American colleagues of our assessments regarding recent communications, including on this matter. I would like to emphasize that the event that took place yesterday at the United Nations, both during the General Assembly session and in the Security Council, highlighted a crucial point. I recognize that the initial lack of an approach aimed at addressing the root causes of the crisis is now beginning to take shape, albeit slowly.
However, the UK remains firm in its hardline approach. Foreign Secretary David Lammy urged European nations to move beyond freezing Russian assets and instead confiscating them. While some see the UN Security Council resolution as a step toward de-escalation, others argue stronger pressure on Moscow is necessary. As diplomatic efforts intensify, the war remains at a crucial turning point.
Just after his victory in the elections, Germany's future Chancellor Friedrich Merz is racing against time to secure funding for his major projects, including strengthening European defense. He has 4 weeks to reach an agreement with the Social Democrats and the Greens to form a coalition and curb the far right. Nabil Khazini has the report.
Germany's political landscape has shifted dramatically. The Christian Democratic Union secured victory with 28% of the vote, positioning Friedrich Merz as the next chancellor. The real shock, the far-right Alternative for Germany surged past 20%, becoming the second largest party and the main opposition force. With 152 seats in the Bundestag, the AfD has doubled its 2021 result, fueled by leader Alice Weidel, who enjoys backing from US figures like Vice President J.D. Vance and Elon Musk. Weidel now aims to overtake the Christian Democratic Union of Germany by 2029. Observers warn that the AfD's rise, driven by populist rhetoric amid economic struggles, could reshape German politics.
The next 4 years are crucial. If the government fails to address key issues, the AfD could gain even more ground in 2029, making it nearly impossible to form a government without them.
Protests erupted in Switzerland, where Weidel resides, as concerns grow over a resurgence of far-right ideals.
The demonstration went very well. We sent a clear message of opposition to far-right policies across Europe, and the turnout was much higher than expected.
To counter the AfD, CDU leader Merz has proposed a coalition with the Social Democrats, securing 328 out of 630 seats to govern.
With the SPD's 120 seats, we can form a government with a black-red coalition, securing 328 mandates out of 630. That is exactly our plan.
Germany's political and economic pillars, once unwavering, now face uncertainty. With the AfD gaining momentum and Europe's political compass shifting, the stakes have never been higher. Some analysts warn that the country has not seen such a radical transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for tonight's program. Our platforms and news websites remain available around the clock. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.